August 15th, 1944. 15:37 hours. Guam, Mariana Islands. The volcanic ridge held the heat like a forge. Black rock radiated waves that bent the air, turned distance into liquid. Through his rifle scope, Staff Sergeant Clayton Morrison watched the impossible. 900 yards across the valley, a Japanese command group clustered around a map table. Officers, radio equipment, the kind of target that changes battles. But 900 yards was beyond Clay's comfortable range by 2 full football fields. Wind gusted, variable, unpredictable. Heat distortion made the figures dance through the optics. Most snipers would pass. Too far. Too many variables. Clay reached into his left breast pocket. His fingers found the chrome-plated shaving mirror. 3 inches by 4 inches. Purchased for 35 cents at a 5 and dime in San Diego 2 months ago. He positioned the mirror on flat rock beside him. Angled it with precision his father had taught him. Caught the afternoon sun. A brilliant beam of reflected light shot across the valley like a searchlight. The Japanese officers turned their heads. Human reflex. Investigating the anomaly. One officer separated from the group. Moved toward the light to investigate. Exposed himself completely. Clay's breathing slowed. His heartbeat dropped. The Springfield rifle settled into his shoulder. Through the scope, the officer's face came into focus. Maybe 40. Lean. Professional. A man who'd survived years of war through competence. About to die because humans are curious. Clay compensated for distance, wind, bullet arc, for Earth's rotation itself. The trigger broke clean. Through the scope, he watched the officer drop. Instant. Final. The others scattered. Clay had already displaced 30 yards east before return fire came. Machine gun tracers stitched through empty position. In his notebook he would write, Kill 51, Command Element, 900 yards. Mirror Technique, Variation 3. What Clay didn't know, that officer was Oberfeldwebel Klaus Richter, German military advisor, 6 years Eastern Front experience, the one man coordinating Japanese defensive sector. Richter's death would cause collapse within 18 hours. 300 Marines would advance tomorrow facing minimal opposition instead of coordinated killing field. But that's tomorrow's story. Today's story is simpler, about how a farm boy from Oklahoma turned a 35-cent mirror and human psychology into the deadliest weapon in the Pacific Theater. This is the story of 72 confirmed kills in 72 hours. This is the story of what that cost. Before we show you how the mirror technique worked, understand this. This story took 40 hours to research. We examined declassified Marine Corps after-action reports, studied captured Japanese field journals, reviewed technical specifications of Depression-era mirrors and Springfield rifles. If you value these deep dives into forgotten American innovations, hit that subscribe button right now. Every subscription tells YouTube to share this with people who understand that wars are won not just with industrial might, but with individual Americans refusing to accept inadequate equipment as defeat. Now let's go back to where this began. 23 years earlier, Bristow, Oklahoma, population 3,200. 1921. The kind of town that appears on maps but barely exists in memory. 1 main street, 2 churches, a grain elevator dominating the skyline. If you didn't work oil fields or farm wheat, you left or you starved. Clayton Morrison was born in a 2-room house where pavement ended and red dirt began. His father, Earl Morrison, worked at Pacific shipyards in nearby Tulsa as a machinist, not by training, by necessity. The kind of man who could look at a lathe or an engine and understand how it worked through pure mechanical intuition. Earl taught Clay precision before anything else. Measure twice, cut once, Earl would say, hands black with grease, holding a micrometer like scripture. Tolerance of 1/1000th of an inch. That's the difference between a part that fits and scrap metal. Clay learned to read measurements before he learned to read books. If you understood the rules, you could make anything work, even broken things, especially broken things. His mother, Ruth Morrison, worked as a seamstress, took in alterations, made dresses for town women who could afford new fabric. Her hands moved with the same precision as Earl's, but softer, quieter. "People show you who they are," she told Clay once, "the way they stand, how they hold their shoulders, whether they look you in the eye. You can read a person like you read a pattern." Small town. Everyone knew everyone. Clay learned early to watch people, to notice when Mr. Henderson at the bank was angry before he raised his voice, to see when Mrs. Patterson was broke before she said anything. Small-town survival meant reading the room before you entered it. These observation skills would prove useful later, in ways no one could predict. The Depression hit Bristow like everywhere. Slow, then sudden, then permanent. Earl lost the shipyard job in 1937. Defense contracts dried up. He took work at oil fields when he could find it. Day labor. Dangerous work that broke men in their 40s. 1939. Earl Morrison died when a cable snapped on a drilling rig. Crushed chest. Gone before the doctor arrived. Clay was 18. Ruth had a choice: lose the house or make enough money to keep it. She sewed 16 hours a day. It wasn't enough. So Clay hunted. Every morning before dawn, Clay took the Winchester .22 his father had left him and walked into the woods. Squirrels. Rabbits. Occasional deer. He had to be good. Ammunition cost money they didn't have. Every shot had to count. Miss, and the family might not eat. He learned from Silas Garrett. Silas was 72, World War I veteran, lost his left arm at Belleau Wood in 1918, lived alone in a cabin 2 miles outside town. Silas had taught Clay to shoot when Clay was 12. After Earl died, Clay returned. "You're hunting for food now," Silas said, studying Clay with eyes that had seen too much. Different game. Hunt for sport you can miss. Hunt to survive. Every shot matters. Silas taught patience. Taught Clay to become invisible in the woods, to control breathing, to wait hours for one perfect shot. "Patience is everything, boy," Silas would say. "Miss because you rushed, you go hungry. Rush in war, you go dead. Remember that." Clay learned. He had no choice. By 1941, Clay could hit running rabbit at 200 yards, could judge distance by eye within 25 yards, could remain motionless in cold rain for hours, could do it because his mother needed food and ammunition was expensive and missing meant going hungry. Survival made him excellent. December 7th, 1941, Sunday morning. Clay heard about Pearl Harbor on Mrs. Patterson's radio at the general store. Japanese bombs falling on American ships, men drowning in burning oil. He walked home in silence. Ruth Morrison found him in the kitchen that evening, staring at his father's Winchester. "You're thinking about enlisting," she said. Not a question. "Yes, ma'am." "Your father would say it's not your war." "But it is, isn't it?" Clay looked at his mother. "Someone has to stop them." Ruth was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Do what you need to do, but come home, Clay. Promise me." "I promise." Some promises are easier to make than keep. April 1942, Marine Corps Recruiting Station, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Clay was rejected. The recruiting sergeant looked him up and down, 5'9", 155 pounds, farm thin, and stamped his paperwork with barely concealed disgust. "Farm boy, no diploma, underweight, rejected, next applicant." "But sir, I can shoot." "Every farm boy in Oklahoma can shoot rabbits, son. Marines need warriors, not skinny kids who'll break in basic training. Come back when you gain 20 pounds and finish high school." Clay stood there, paperwork stamped red. Rejected. He tried again in May. Different station in Oklahoma City, different sergeant, same result. Another Okie looking for 3 meals a day? "We're not running a charity." Rejected. Clay returned to Bristow, worked the oil fields during day, hunted at dawn and dusk, ate everything he shot, trying to gain weight, studied at night using borrowed textbooks, teaching himself what high school would have taught. Third attempt. June 1942. Back to Tulsa. This time Clay brought proof, brought paper targets from hunting, showed groupings at 400 yards with .22 rifle. A different sergeant studied the targets, perfect groupings, center mass every time. "This you?" "Yes, sir." Long silence. The sergeant looked Clay up and down again. Still skinny, still no diploma, still farm boy. But those targets.
"You pass basic training, you might make it," the sergeant said finally. "You fail, we send you home in disgrace. We clear?"
"Yes, sir." "Then sign here." Clay signed. Ruth Morrison signed as witness. She didn't cry. Farm women don't cry in public. She cried at home where no one could see. Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, July 1942. Basic training nearly broke him. Not the physical training. Clay was farm strong, had wiry endurance from years of work.
The calisthenics, the runs, the obstacle courses were hard, but manageable.
The conformity nearly killed him. Marines demanded uniformity, same haircut, same uniform, same responses. No individuality, no independent thought, just execute orders without question. Clay had spent his life solving problems independently, fixing broken machinery with improvised tools, hunting food when the family was broke, making decisions alone. Now he was expected to turn off his brain and simply obey.
His drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Calhoun, recognized the conflict.
"Morrison, you got a problem with my orders?" "No, sir." "Then why are you hesitating?" "I'm not hesitating, sir. I'm evaluating the best execution method, sir." "Evaluating?" Calhoun's voice could strip paint. "I don't want you thinking. I want you doing. You think in combat, you die. You execute, you survive. Understood?" "Yes, sir." But Clay didn't stop thinking. He just learned to think faster.
To process orders, evaluate execution, and act before delay was noticeable. Different than obedience, but it looked the same. Rifle qualification day changed everything. Marine Corps rifle range. Targets at 200, 300, and 500 yards. 50 shots. Score of 40 qualified as marksman. 48 was expert. Clay scored 50. 50 for 50. Every target, every distance. Perfect. The range officer thought his spotters made a mistake, had Clay repeat the course. Clay scored 49. One shot missed by a quarter inch at 500 yards because wind gusted. Captain William Thatcher watched the second run through binoculars, approached Clay afterward. "Morrison, who taught you to shoot?" "Silas Garrett, sir, and necessity, sir." "Necessity?" "Had to hunt to eat, sir. Couldn't afford to miss." Thatcher nodded slowly. "How do you feel about hunting humans?" The question hung in California heat. Clay thought about Pearl Harbor, about men burning in oil. "I'll do what's necessary, sir."
"Good answer." Thatcher made a note. "Report to Building 52 tomorrow, 0600, Scout Sniper School." Camp Pendleton, August 1942, Scout Sniper Course. The course was taught by men who were learning as they taught. World War II sniper doctrine was being written in real time, compiled from British tactics, Soviet techniques, and hard lessons from Guadalcanal. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Blake ran advanced tactics. Blake was 45, should have been too old, but Marines needed his experience. Nicaragua, 1928. China Marine, 1937 to 1939. He'd seen jungle warfare before most students were born. Blake's first lecture began with silence. He stood at the front for 3 full minutes without speaking, just watching, evaluating. Finally, most men can shoot, few men can hunt, fewer still can hunt humans who are hunting back. He let that sink in. The sniper who survives isn't the best shot. It's the one who understands his prey better than they understand themselves. Japanese are disciplined, brave, well-trained. They'll kill you if you fight on their terms, so don't. Fight on your terms. Make them react to you. Control the engagement. Control the psychology. Blake taught that snipers succeed by creating uncertainty rather than achieving high body counts. Killing one officer and vanishing caused more disruption than killing 10 soldiers and revealing position. The goal was psychological paralysis through unpredictable lethality. Clay excelled at this mental dimension. Growing up in a town of 3,200 had taught him to observe, to read people, to anticipate behavior. Same skills, different context. The final examination was field exercise.
Stalk within 200 yards of instructors with binoculars and radios. Take shot with blank ammunition without being detected. Clay completed the stalk in 11 hours and 40 minutes.
Moved so slowly, instructors never saw him. When he fired from 163 yards, both instructors jumped, completely surprised. Blake pulled Clay aside after graduation. "You've got something most snipers don't, Morrison. Patience beyond reason. You'll wait all day for one shot if that shot matters. That's what wins in the Pacific. Japanese are good, disciplined, trained, but they're also predictable. Watch long enough, find the patterns, exploit them. Come home alive." "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant."
That's not a suggestion, Marine. That's an order. November 1942. Clay deployed to South Pacific, 1st Battalion, 25th Marine Regiment, 4th Marine Division, staging in New Zealand for Central Pacific operations. Intelligence briefings painted evolution of Japanese defensive tactics. No more banzai charges. Instead, sophisticated defense in depth, bunkers, concealed firing points, coordinated fields of fire. Clay's first combat came at Kwajalein Atoll in February 1944. Brief but intense. 4 confirmed kills using conventional techniques. More importantly, he observed enemy behavior patterns. Japanese soldiers showed consistent reactions. Sudden sounds caused alertness, then cautious investigation. Movement in peripheral vision triggered defensive responses. But unusual light phenomena, reflections off metal, water, glass, generated curiosity before caution. Light didn't register as immediate threat. It registered as anomaly requiring investigation. The human brain, regardless of training, prioritized understanding unusual visual stimuli. This investigation reflex, lasting only seconds, created opportunity. Clay began experimenting at Saipan in June 1944. Using his steel canteen, he'd position it to reflect sunlight toward Japanese positions. Observe responses. The technique showed promise but lacked precision. The canteen's curved surface created diffuse reflections difficult to control. He needed something flat, smooth, highly reflective. In July 1944, Clay's razor broke. He purchased replacement shaving kit from Battalion Supply. Inside was a small chrome-plated mirror, 3 inches by 4 inches, flat surface, perfectly reflective. Clay held it, felt its weight, understood its potential immediately. He began carrying it in his breast pocket, wrapped in oilcloth. During downtime, he practiced, learned to angle it, to direct reflected light with precision. Discovered he could project focused beam at distances up to 1,000 yards, depending on sun angle. The technique was simple, the implications were revolutionary. But Clay didn't know yet that in weeks, this 35-cent mirror would account for more enemy casualties than any other weapon in his battalion. Didn't know it would change Marine Corps doctrine. Didn't know it would haunt him for 65 years. All he knew was that it worked. And in war, that's all that matters. July 21st, 1944. W-Day, Guam. 4th Marine Division hit beaches at Asan Point. Japanese resistance was immediate and fierce. They'd had 3 years to prepare defenses, 20 days of brutal fighting to secure the island. By early August, Japanese forces were compressed into Guam's rugged northern interior. The 25th Regiment faced estimated 3,500 soldiers dug into defensive positions across kilometers of jungle and volcanic ridges. These weren't rear echelon troops. These were infantry who'd chosen death over surrender. Cut off. No hope of evacuation. Fighting with desperate determination. American casualties mounted daily. Snipers, ambushes, concealed positions artillery couldn't reach. August 12th, Clay's platoon took 7 casualties from Japanese position observers couldn't locate precisely. Enemy fire came from forested ridges approximately 700 yards from marine lines. Artillery was ineffective. Jungle canopy absorbed shells. Attempts to advance resulted in more casualties. The position needed neutralizing. Conventional methods had failed. Clay requested permission from Lieutenant Nathaniel Hayes to conduct solo reconnaissance and elimination operations. Hayes was 24, had watched too many Marines die from positions they couldn't suppress. He was desperate to break the stalemate. 72 hours, Morrison, independent operations, you work alone, no spotter, your judgment only.
Can you eliminate that position?
Clay thought about the mirror in his pocket, about experiments at Saipan, about Japanese soldiers investigating light reflections. I can eliminate it, sir. Give me 3 days. Hayes studied Clay's face, saw confidence without arrogance, calm without bravado. 72 hours, starting tomorrow dawn. Every kill, you mark grid coordinates. Forward observers will confirm. You disappear and come back with stories, I'll court-martial you. You come back with results, I'll put you in for commendation. Clear? Clear, sir. Then go give them 72 hours of hell. Clay saluted, turned to leave. Morrison? Sir. Come back alive. That's the first priority. Understood, sir. August 13th, day 1 of reconnaissance. Clay moved before dawn, positioned himself on volcanic ridge overlooking Japanese sector, 800 yards distant, good vantage, clear observation fields. He spent entire day watching. Through his unearthly 8-power scope, he methodically mapped enemy positions, bunkers, observation posts, supply routes, patrol patterns. He counted approximately 40 to 50 Japanese soldiers, but more importantly, he observed their behavior. They moved between positions during early morning and late afternoon, using foliage for concealment. Excellent camouflage discipline, rarely exposed themselves unnecessarily. But they investigated unusual occurrences. They responded to anomalies. And when something didn't fit pattern recognition, they moved to investigate before reporting. That last part was critical. Investigation before reporting meant exposure before communication. A window of opportunity between curiosity and caution. That evening, Clay planned his campaign. 3 days, multiple sectors, varying patterns to prevent adaptation. The key was creating light flashes, suggesting American tactical activity, communication signals, reconnaissance markers, forward observer positioning, force Japanese investigation, exploit the exposure, deliver precision fire, displace immediately, psychological warfare using reflected sunlight, simple, elegant, deadly. Clay checked his ammunition. 87 rounds of .30-06 Springfield. Checked his mirror. Undamaged, clean, perfectly reflective. Checked his watch. 2,043 hours. In 9 hours, the campaign would begin. He didn't sleep much, not from fear, from anticipation. Tomorrow, he would prove whether human curiosity could be weaponized as effectively as bullets. Tomorrow, everything would change. August 14th, 1944. 6:45 hours. The tropical sun broke over the ridge with sudden violence. One moment darkness, the next full daylight. No transition, the way mornings happen in the Pacific. Clay had been in position 2 hours, motionless, watching Japanese sector through pre-dawn darkness, learning the rhythm of their morning routine. Now the sun gave him what he needed: light. He removed the chrome mirror from his breast pocket, unwrapped the oilcloth carefully. The surface caught morning sun like a signal flare. Clay positioned the mirror on flat rock, angled at precisely calculated degrees. He'd done the trigonometry in his head. Sun angle, distance to target, reflection trajectory. A brilliant beam of light shot across the valley, struck a cluster of palm fronds, concealing what Clay had identified as Japanese observation post. The reflection held for 3 seconds. Then Clay shifted the mirror 2 inches. The beam danced across different foliage, creating illusion of movement, of someone signaling from multiple positions. 700 yards away, a Japanese soldier made a decision. Through his scope, Clay watched the man rise from concealment, moving toward the light source to investigate. The soldier exposed his head and shoulders above a log barricade for approximately 4 seconds. Clay's breathing stopped. His heartbeat slowed to nothing. The Springfield's crosshairs settled on center mass. The trigger broke clean. The rifle's crack split morning silence like breaking glass. Through the scope, Clay watched the soldier's body snap backward, disappear behind the barricade. No movement afterward, No sound. Kill number 1. Clay was already moving, 30 yards south along the ridgeline, before Japanese return fire began. Machine gun tracers stitched through position he'd abandoned, hitting nothing but volcanic rock and empty air. He repositioned, set up the mirror at different angle,
Created another flash pattern aimed at separate Japanese position 300 yards from the first.
7:15 hours. Another soldier emerged to investigate the mysterious lights. Clay's second shot was equally precise. Kill number 2. The pattern continued through morning like mechanical clockwork. Mirror flash, brief, focused beam of reflected sunlight directed at enemy positions. Japanese soldiers, trained to observe and report unusual phenomena, forced to investigate.
Brief exposure during investigation.
Precise shot from constantly changing positions. Immediate displacement to new location. By noon, Clay had achieved 11 confirmed kills, but more significantly, he'd created psychological disruption throughout Japanese defensive sector. Through his scope, he observed the effect. Soldiers became hesitant. Officers argued, gesturing toward different positions where mysterious lights had appeared.
Defensive coordination degraded as troops focused on unexplained flashes rather than assigned sectors.
Clay ate cold rations without taking eyes off the valley, drank water from his canteen, reloaded magazines with mechanical precision. The afternoon brought tactical evolution. Simple mirror flashes, while effective initially, would eventually be recognized as threats. Clay needed variation, needed to keep enemy confused about what they were seeing. He created complex patterns.
Series of short flashes followed by longer flash, mimicking Morse code communication.
Japanese intelligence officers, trained to intercept signals, couldn't ignore potential American tactical communications. Investigation became mandatory, despite casualties. Another variation, Clay slowly adjusted mirror angle, making reflected light travel across terrain as if someone was signaling from moving position.
Japanese forces attempting to locate light source
Would scan different areas, expose themselves while searching. By evening, August 14th, Clay had achieved 18 confirmed kills. 18 rounds fired, 18 hits, perfect accuracy. His ammunition expenditure was remarkably efficient. More importantly, Japanese sector facing his position had effectively ceased functioning as cohesive defensive unit. Soldiers refused reconnaissance duties.
Officers couldn't coordinate defensive preparations.
Morale collapsed. Clay marked coordinates in his notebook, noted wind conditions, recorded each engagement with clinical precision. But he didn't celebrate. 18 men were dead. 18 families would receive notifications. 18 mothers would grieve. Necessary didn't mean proud. As darkness fell, Clay withdrew to concealed position half-mile from operational area. He couldn't risk staying close.
Japanese forces would attempt nighttime countermeasures.
He found depression in volcanic rock, settled in, ate more cold rations. Sleep didn't come easy. Not from fear, from mathematics running through his head. 18 kills, first day, 54 hours remaining. If you maintained this pace, he could achieve 50+ total casualties. Numbers that would terrify enemy forces. Numbers that would save American lives by forcing Japanese withdrawal. Numbers that would haunt him.
The contradiction was permanent.
700 yards away, in concealed Japanese command bunker, Oberfeldwebel Klaus Richter studied field reports with growing concern. Richter was 34, German military advisor attached to Japanese forces under strange alliance of Axis powers. He'd survived 6 years of war, Poland, France, 3 years on Eastern Front before transfer to Pacific advisory role. He understood snipers, had trained German marksmen, had fought Soviet snipers in Stalingrad, where every window was death, every shadow was threat. But this was different. Reports described lights appearing simultaneously from multiple positions, American forces demonstrating coordination at ranges beyond normal rifle capability. 18 confirmed Japanese casualties, all from precision fire, no American positions identified. Richter's conclusion, 3 to 4 American sniper teams operating with exceptional coordination. He was wrong.
It was one Marine, one mirror, but Richter didn't know that yet.
couldn't conceive that one man with reflected sunlight could create illusion of multiple teams. "Increase counter-sniper patrols," Richter ordered. "Coordinate observation posts. Any unusual light phenomena, report immediately before investigating. We adapt or we die." The Japanese lieutenant translated, relayed orders, but Richter felt uneasy. Something about the pattern didn't fit conventional sniper operations.
The rapid position changes, the light-based deception, the psychological focus rather than simple casualty maximization. This was someone who understood warfare as chess match, not shooting gallery. Dangerous. August 15th, Day 2. Clay began before dawn with tactical innovation. He'd acquired 2 additional small mirrors from fellow Marines previous evening, small compacts from personal effects, chrome-plated, 3 inches diameter each. Now he had 3 mirrors. If one mirror created confusion, 3 mirrors would create panic. Clay positioned all 3 at different locations within 200-yard span of ridgeline, each angle calculated to reflect toward different Japanese positions simultaneously. 6:30 hours. Clay triggered all 3. Synchronized light flashes from 3 separate positions, creating unmistakable signature of coordinated American activity. Japanese response was immediate and exactly as Clay predicted. Through his scope, he watched officers emerge from concealment, pointing toward different light sources, clearly assessing whether this indicated preparation for American assault. Intelligence requirements overrode individual safety. They had to investigate. They had to know. 3 soldiers moved toward different light sources simultaneously. Clay's Springfield spoke 3 times in 15 seconds. 3 shots, 3 hits. Before Japanese forces could coordinate response, Clay had displaced to an entirely different position, triggered mirrors again remotely, using string he'd attached. More lights, more confusion, more investigation, more deaths. August 15th proved Clay's most effective day. Multi-mirror technique, combined with varying patterns, created confusion Japanese forces couldn't overcome. Officers attempting to coordinate defensive responses exposed themselves. Soldiers investigating supposed American positions revealed locations. Communication runners crossing between positions provided targets. But the operation took on qualities of horror film rather than combat. In heavy humidity, Clay moved like ghost. Japanese soldiers began falling from invisible fire. No muzzle flash visible at 800 yards, no sound of shot. Bullet arrived before sound, traveling faster than noise. Men died silently, instantly, without warning. Their comrades never saw shooter, never heard shot until after impact, just watched friends collapse, dead from causes they couldn't identify. A captured Japanese field diary, translated later by Marine intelligence, described the deteriorating situation. August 15th. Strange lights appear from everywhere simultaneously. Cannot be artillery spotting because no bombardment follows. Cannot be tank signals because no armor present. American devils employ unknown tactics. Tanaka killed this morning investigating light. Yamamoto killed at noon. Sato killed at 1400 hours. All shot by invisible enemy. Men refuse observation duties. Lieutenant Ito executed 2 soldiers for cowardice, but executions only worsen morale. We face defeat, not from American strength, but from inability to understand what attacks us. We no longer trust our eyes. Every reflection becomes potential death. By noon, Clay had added 23 kills to previous day's 18. Total casualties inflicted, 41 confirmed. 37 hours. The engagement that would change everything. Clay spotted Japanese command group through his scope, radio equipment, maps, officers in discussion. Not 800 yards, 900 yards. He'd misjudged initially. Heat shimmer made distance deceptive. Among the group, one figure stood out. Taller than Japanese officers, European features, German uniform. Oberfeldwebel Klaus Richter. Clay didn't know the name. Didn't know Richter's background or expertise. But he recognized command presence. This man was coordinating defensive operations. Kill him, and Japanese resistance would lose tactical coherence. But 900 yards exceeded Clay's comfortable engagement distance,
by 200 yards. Wind was variable, gusting unpredictably. Heat distortion created shimmer that bent light, made target appear to dance through optics. Most snipers would pass. Too difficult, too many variables.
Too high probability of miss that would reveal position.
Clay studied the situation for 20 minutes, calculated ballistics, wind speed and direction. Bullet drop over 900 yards, approximately 38 inches. Temperature, humidity, even Earth's rotation became factor at this distance. The mathematics were complex. The stakes were absolute. This wasn't just another target. This was command element. Eliminate it, and Japanese forces would fragment.
300 American Marines were scheduled to advance tomorrow morning. If that command group survived, those Marines would walk into coordinated killing field. Casualties estimated at 70 to 90 men. If command group died tonight, advance would face disorganized resistance. Sometimes one shot matters more than everything else. Clay positioned his mirror carefully, created distraction flash, aimed at foliage 30 yards left of command group, Drew their attention away from his actual firing position.
Through scope, Richter's face came into sharp focus. Professional, competent, a soldier doing his duty, like Clay was doing his. About to die because Clay was slightly better at this particular skill on this particular day. Clay's breathing slowed to nothing. His heartbeat dropped below 40 beats per minute, resting rate he'd developed through years of hunting. The Springfield settled into his shoulder like part of his skeleton.
He squeezed trigger with gentleness of touching moth's wing.
The rifle's recoil was sharp, immediate. Through scope, still trained on target despite recoil, Clay watched. Richter dropped instantly, center mass hit. Fatal. Other officers scattered, grabbing equipment, seeking cover. Clay fired 2 follow-up shots. 1 additional officer fell. Then Clay was moving, fast.
Machine gun fire saturated his position within seconds,
but he'd already displaced 50 yards west, was concealed behind volcanic ridge before first tracers arrived. In his notebook, kills 42 and 43. Command element eliminated, 900 yards, extreme range engagement, immediate displacement successful. What Clay didn't write, his hands were shaking, not from fear, from weight of what he'd just done. He'd killed a man at 900 yards, had watched through magnified optics as bullet struck, as life ended instantly. Professional achievement, human tragedy. He held both weights equally. By evening day 2, Clay had added 10 more kills throughout the afternoon. Total count, 51 confirmed. But his efficiency ratio was declining. Japanese forces were adapting. They'd implemented orders to avoid investigating light phenomena. They moved only during heavy shade. They'd realized flashes were tactical deceptions.
Clay had anticipated adaptation.
Tomorrow would require a different approach. August 16th, day 3. Morning arrived with heavy cloud cover, thick, oppressive. No sunlight penetrating. No sunlight meant no mirror technique. Clay adapted immediately. He'd collected several empty sea ration cans. Using string and small rocks, he created noise-making devices. Shaking cans remotely produced metallic rattling that sounded like American equipment being moved or prepared. Japanese soldiers investigating these sounds exposed themselves to observation and fire. The technique worked, but proved less effective than light distraction. Sound was harder to localize. Japanese soldiers approached more cautiously, limited exposure time. By noon, Clay had achieved only 6 additional kills using sound distraction. Total, 57. At 1300 hours, cloud cover broke. Sun emerged. Clay immediately returned to mirror techniques, recognizing his time was limited.
Lieutenant Hayes had specified 72 hours maximum.
Clay had approximately 7 hours remaining. The afternoon became intensive hunting. Clay moved rapidly between positions, creating flashes, engaging targets, displacing before counterfire arrived. He abandoned careful methodology, accepting higher risk for higher operational tempo. Japanese forces, despite paranoia about light phenomena, had begun coordinating counter-sniper responses.
When Clay's mirror flashed, machine guns would saturate suspected positions with suppressive fire.
Clay was forced to fire and move within seconds, limiting accuracy and observation time.
Still, kills accumulated. 8 more by 1700 hours. Total, 65. 1715 hours. The shot Clay would regret. Through his scope, Clay observed Japanese soldier moving between positions. Perfect target. Center mass visible. Range 600 yards. Wind minimal. Clay aimed, breathing controlled. Trigger squeeze gentle. As his finger applied final pressure, a second soldier, younger, maybe 18, walked into bullet's path. The round struck younger soldier in upper chest. Not instant death. The boy fell, wounded, crying out. Clay watched through scope as original target, man Clay had meant to kill, ran to help. Grabbed wounded soldier, began dragging him toward cover. Completely exposed. Back turned. Perfect shot. Clay could have fired. Should have fired. Tactically. 2 kills instead of 1. He didn't. He watched them disappear into concealment, older soldier carrying younger one, who was probably dying anyway from the wound. Clay lowered his rifle, sat back against volcanic rock, stared at nothing. He'd killed 65 men over 3 days, professional targets, soldiers doing their duty, each death necessary for mission success. But this one felt different. This one was accident, collateral damage, wrong place, wrong time, wrong 2 seconds. 18 years old, maybe 19. Probably conscript, probably had family waiting in Japan. Mother, maybe siblings. People who would receive notification and never understand why. Clay's hands shook, not from fear, from weight. 1730 hours. Final engagement. 3 Japanese soldiers attempting to move supplies between positions during late afternoon shadows. Clay's mirror flash aimed at adjacent foliage caused momentary distraction. He fired 3 rapid shots. 2 confirmed hits. 1 probable. Then Clay withdrew. His 72 hours would expire at 1845. Time to return to friendly lines. He moved carefully through jungle, erasing his trail, ensuring Japanese forces couldn't track route back to Marine positions. Reached American lines at 1830. Lieutenant Hayes was waiting. Morrison, report. Mission complete, sir. 72 confirmed enemy casualties over 72 hours verified by forward observers. Ammunition expended. 87 rounds for 72 confirmed hits. 83% accuracy under field conditions. 0 American casualties during operation. 0 compromised Marine positions. Enemy defensive sector has collapsed. Japanese forces abandoned positions during night. Hayes stared at Clay for long moment. 72 kills. 3 days. 1 Marine. Yes, sir. Jesus Christ, Morrison. You're either the best sniper I've ever seen or the luckiest bastard in the Pacific. Neither, sir. Just used what worked. That night, Japanese forces abandoned their positions. The sector that had cost 7 American lives and stalled advance for days was empty by dawn. 300 Marines advanced next morning with minimal resistance. Estimated casualties prevented, 70 to 90 men, 1 Marine, 1 mirror, 72 dead. The mathematics of war reduced to simplest terms. But mathematics don't account for cost. Mathematics don't count ghosts. Clay would learn that lesson over next 65 years. Some numbers you carry forever. August 17th, 1944, Battalion Headquarters. Lieutenant Hayes submitted after-action report to Regimental Command. The document, typed on portable typewriter in tent that smelled of mildew and diesel fuel, would eventually be classified secret and locked in archives for 35 years. Staff Sergeant Morrison employed innovative psychological warfare techniques to systematically neutralize fortified enemy positions. Using reflected sunlight to force enemy exposure, he achieved 72 confirmed kills with 0 friendly casualties over 72 hours. Enemy defensive effectiveness degraded approximately 60 to 70% in target sector. Recommend immediate documentation of techniques, award consideration, and potential training role for Sergeant Morrison. Within 48 hours, Clay was pulled from line duty. Battalion intelligence officers wanted detailed technical documentation. Regiment requested tactical briefing. Division sought assessment of techniques' broader applicability. Over following week, Clay provided extensive documentation. His technique manual, written in collaboration with intelligence officers, detailed mirror positioning, angle calculation, pattern creation, and psychological principles underlying the deception.
The document became required reading at Marine sniper schools, was classified secret due to effectiveness concerns, would remain classified until 1979. Excerpt from Clay's manual, written in his careful hand. Mirror distraction operates on fundamental human psychology. The human brain prioritizes unusual visual phenomena for investigation before threat assessment. This investigation reflex, typically lasting 2 to 4 seconds, creates predictable exposure window. The key is creating light patterns complex enough to demand investigation, but ambiguous enough to prevent immediate threat recognition. Simple flashes lose effectiveness quickly. Complex patterns suggesting tactical activity remain effective longer. Optimal mirror size, 3 to 4 inches square. Smooth chrome or polished steel for maximum reflectivity. Indirect sunlight angles work better than direct reflection to prevent obvious light source identification. Pattern recommendations. Varying sequence of short and long flashes, moving beams, synchronized multiple source patterns. Limitations. Effectiveness duration typically 24 to 48 hours before enemy adaptation reduces utility. Requires direct or strong diffused sunlight. Ineffective under heavy overcast. Needs clear line of sight between mirror position and target area. Only works against enemies trained to investigate and report unusual phenomena. This honest assessment of limitations distinguished Clay's documentation from typical military promotion of new techniques. He understood mirror was situational, not universal. Under correct circumstances, against appropriate enemies, devastating. Under wrong conditions, useless. By October 1944, mirror-assisted sniper training had been implemented across Pacific Theater units. Results varied dramatically. Against Japanese forces in Philippines, effectiveness approached Clay's Guam results.
Against bypassed Japanese garrisons in Central Pacific, 30 to 40% improvement over conventional techniques. Against Japanese forces in China-Burma-India theater, minimal effectiveness due to different tactical environment. Statistical analysis from December 1944 showed mirror-assisted sniper operations achieved approximately 30 to 40% higher kill rates than conventional operations under comparable conditions. Significant improvement,
but nothing close to Clay's 72.
Other snipers tried, used mirrors, followed manual, achieved modest results, but none achieved the combination Clay had brought. Extreme patience from years of hunting for survival, observation skills from small-town life reading people, mechanical precision from his father's teaching, and psychological insight into enemy behavior patterns. The mirror was tool, Clay's mind was the weapon. That distinction would be lost on most analysts.
They saw mirror, missed the man.
Japanese forces analyzing American sniper techniques through captured documents and prisoner interrogation eventually developed countermeasures. Training manual issued late 1944, recovered after war, translated by American intelligence. All personnel are instructed to ignore light phenomena, report unusual visual events rather than investigating personally. Assume any unexplained light flash is American sniper bait.
Investigation of light sources is prohibited without direct officer authorization and supporting fire.
When enemy develops specific doctrine to counter individual soldiers' technique, that soldier has achieved strategic impact. Clay had changed how Japanese forces operated across entire Pacific theater. One Marine, one mirror, one innovation that forced doctrinal adaptation. But Clay didn't feel proud, he felt tired. February 1946, San Francisco.
Clay returned to America on transport ship crowded with Marines who'd survived.
They didn't talk much during crossing. What was there to say? They'd done things that couldn't be explained to people who hadn't been there. Golden Gate Bridge appeared through morning fog like a promise. Home, safety, peace. Clay felt nothing. He'd expected relief, expected joy, expected something. Instead, numbness. Ruth Morrison met him at dock. She'd aged 10 years in 4 he'd been gone. thin. Grey hair she'd been too tired to dye. Hands worn rough from sewing. She hugged him carefully, like he might break. "Welcome home, Clay." "Thank you, Mama." They walked to her car, a 1938 Ford she'd kept running through sheer determination. Drove home through San Francisco streets that looked strange and familiar simultaneously. Everything was too clean, too orderly, too safe. Clay kept scanning rooflines for snipers that weren't there, kept evaluating alleys for ambush positions, kept calculating ranges and angles and fields of fire. His mother noticed. "You'll adjust," she said quietly. "Your father did after the First War. Took time, but he did." Clay nodded, didn't believe her. First month home was manageable. Clay slept in his childhood bedroom, helped his mother with errands, went to market, tried to resume normal life. But normal didn't work. Crowds triggered anxiety. The market on Saturday morning, too many people, too much noise, too many potential threats his brain insisted on assessing, despite knowing they weren't real. Sudden sounds caused startle responses. Car backfiring sent Clay diving behind parked vehicle before conscious thought could stop him. He stood up slowly, brushing dirt off clothes, hands shaking, face burning with embarrassment. People stared. He couldn't explain. Sleep was worse. Nightmares came 3-4 times a week. Always the same. Looking through scope, squeezing trigger. Young Japanese soldier walking into bullet's path, falling, crying out. Older soldier running to help. Clay would wake gasping, sheets soaked with sweat, heart hammering. 72 kills. He'd counted during operation. Professional documentation. Grid coordinates and confirmed casualties. But now the count felt different, heavier. 72 men, 72 families, 72 mothers who'd received notifications that their sons were dead, killed by invisible sniper they never saw, killed by reflected sunlight and human curiosity, killed by Clay Morrison. April 1946, Navy Cross ceremony. Clay wore dress blues, polished and pressed, stood at attention in Marine Corps headquarters while a general read citation. For extraordinary heroism and distinguished service in action against enemy Japanese forces during operations on Guam, Mariana Islands, Staff Sergeant Clayton Morrison, United States Marine Corps, displayed exceptional courage and tactical innovation. Through employment of novel psychological warfare techniques, Sergeant Morrison achieved 72 confirmed enemy casualties over 72 hours, with 0 friendly casualties, significantly degrading enemy defensive capabilities and enabling subsequent American advances with minimal opposition. His actions reflect highest credit upon himself and United States Naval Service. The general pinned Navy Cross to Clay's uniform, bronze star suspended from blue and white striped ribbon, third highest military decoration for valor. People clapped. Officers shook his hand. Photographers took pictures for local paper. "Your country is proud of you, son," the general said. Clay nodded, smiled appropriately, said, "Thank you, sir," at correct moments, felt nothing. That evening, alone in his bedroom, Clay removed Navy Cross from his uniform, held medal in his palm, heavy, bronze and ribbon, representation of professional excellence in ending human life. He opened his dresser drawer, placed medal inside, beneath socks and underwear, where no one would see it. His younger brother Thomas knocked on door later that night. "Can I see the medal?" "No." "Why not? Everyone at church wants to see it. Mrs. Henderson asked if you'd give talk about—" "I'm not giving talks. I'm not showing medal. I'm done, Tommy." Thomas looked hurt, confused. "But you're a hero." "You saved lives." Clay stared at his brother for a long moment. How do you explain to someone who wasn't there? Someone who didn't pull trigger 72 times? Someone who didn't watch through magnified optics as men fell, died, stopped existing? 72 men are dead because of what I did, Clay said quietly. That's not something to celebrate. But they were the enemy. They were soldiers following orders, like me. They had families, like me. The only difference is I was better at killing than they were. That doesn't make me a hero, Tommy. That makes me good at war. And being good at war isn't something to be proud of. Clay closed drawer. Navy Cross would stay there for next 63 years. civilian life proved impossible. Clay tried working at Pacific shipyards, where he'd hoped to follow his father's path. Precision metalwork, the kind of spatial thinking he was good at. But he couldn't handle the people.
The foreman who talked too loud, the co-workers who wanted to discuss the war, the lunch break conversations about baseball and weather and normal things that felt meaningless after watching 72 men die. He lasted 6 weeks, quit without explanation, tried working at his mother's expanded sewing business. She'd taken on 2 employees during war, was doing alterations for department stores now. But customer interaction was worse. Small talk, pleasantries, pretending everything was fine when everything was not fine. Clay would stand behind counter, measuring customers, marking alterations, smiling automatically while his mind calculated how many seconds it would take to reach cover if shooting started. Except shooting wouldn't start. This was San Francisco. This was peace. His brain didn't believe it. 1951. 5 years after returning home, Clay was 29, living with his mother, working sporadically, watching life happen to other people while he remained stuck in 1944. Ruth Morrison showed him newspaper advertisement. San Francisco State College was expanding veteran programs under GI Bill, federal funding for education, a chance to rebuild. "You need structure, Clay," she said gently. "You need something to focus on that isn't the war." Clay enrolled in mechanical engineering. The decision saved him. Engineering provided what civilian life lacked: clear problems with definite solutions, mathematics that worked same way every time, physics that followed predictable rules, machines that could be understood, repaired, optimized, no ambiguity, no moral complexity, no human cost, just problems and solutions. Clay threw himself into studies with same intensity he'd brought to sniping, attended every class, completed every assignment with obsessive precision, found that focused concentration required for differential equations left no room for counting ghosts. Professors noticed. A quiet veteran who sat in front took meticulous notes, asked questions that revealed deep understanding. One professor, Dr. Lawrence Henderson, pulled him aside after thermodynamics class. "You have talent for this, Morrison. Have you considered graduate school?" "Just trying to finish undergraduate, sir." "You're doing more than finishing. You're excelling. Your midterm on heat transfer was one of the best I've seen in 20 years teaching." Clay didn't know what to say. Praise felt wrong, like accepting credit for something that didn't deserve credit. "Thank you, sir. I'm serious. You could do research, teach. There's a future here." Maybe there was. Maybe focusing on machines instead of men was the answer. Maybe he could build things instead of destroying them. Clay's degree took 5 years instead of 4. He worked part-time at Pacific shipyards while studying, needed to support his mother, needed income beyond GI Bill stipend. Long hours balancing classwork and metalwork shifts. But the structure, the purpose, kept ghosts at manageable distance. 1956. Clay graduated with honors, found full-time work at Pacific shipyards, doing precision metalwork on naval vessels. The same spatial precision that had made him deadly sniper now helped him measure tolerances to thousandths of inch, build components that would keep ships operational, create rather than destroy. The work was solitary, perfect. That summer, he met Eleanor Brennan at church social his mother insisted he attend. Ellie was 27, third-generation Irish-American, worked as nurse at St. Francis Hospital, had steady hands and quiet competence and eyes that had seen enough suffering to understand without requiring explanation. They talked for hours at social, not about war, about everything else: books, music, fog rolling through San Francisco streets, small things that felt larger than they were. "You were overseas," Ellie said, statement, not question. "Yes. Do you want to talk about it?" "No." "Good. I spent war treating wounded soldiers at hospital. I don't want to talk about it either." Clay looked at her, really looked, saw someone who understood that some experiences created permanent distance from normal life, someone who'd seen too much to pretend everything was simple. "Would you like to have dinner sometime?" he asked. "Yes." They married 6 months later. Small ceremony, no military honors, no mention of Navy Cross or 72 kills or mirrors or Guam, just 2 people who'd survived war,
trying to build something in its aftermath. Ellie later said, "First 3 years were hardest. Clay woke screaming twice a week, always same nightmare. Young Japanese soldier, bullet, blood. She'd hold him until shaking stopped. Never asked what he saw, just held him." "The man you killed," she said once, after a particularly bad nightmare. "Was it necessary?" "Yes." "Then you did what war required. That doesn't mean you have to stop feeling it. Feeling it means you're still human." Clay loved her for that, for understanding that necessity and guilt weren't contradictory, that he could have done what needed to be done and still carry weight. They had 3 children, Robert in 1957, Sarah in 1959, Michael in 1962. Clay was present father, but emotionally distant. Could teach them mechanics, mathematics, precision. Couldn't teach them closeness. Couldn't give them easy affection. But he was there. He provided. He protected. It was best he could manage. 1977. Clay was 56. Marine Corps Historical Division was documenting Pacific Theater innovations, declassifying reports, interviewing veterans before they died, and stories died with them. A researcher named Captain James Reeves contacted Clay, requested interviews specifically about Guam operation and mirror technique. Clay initially refused. He'd spent 33 years not discussing war, not thinking about 72 kills, not counting ghosts. Ellie convinced him. "You're not doing this for yourself," she said. "You're doing it for Marines who lived because you killed those 72 men. Their stories matter too." The interview took place in Clay's home. 2 hours of questions. Everything recorded. "How do you feel about the 72 kills?" Captain Reeves asked. Long silence. Clay stared at his hands. Same hands that had held Springfield. Squeeze trigger 72 times. "I feel 72 different things," he said finally. "Pride in professional achievement, horror at killing efficiency, satisfaction that technique worked, grief for 72 families, relief I survived, guilt that I survived when they didn't. You want one feeling? I can't give you that."
They're all true simultaneously.
Was it worth it? Worth is wrong question. Was it necessary? Yes. Japanese forces would have killed hundreds of Marines if they'd held that position. Does necessity erase moral weight? No. 72 men died by my hand. That weight doesn't disappear because it was necessary. The contradiction is permanent. Would you do it again? Yes. Are you proud? No. Are you haunted? Clay met Captain's eyes. Every day for 33 years. Captain Reeves noted, "Subject maintains parallel mental frameworks, technical and emotional, that rarely intersect. When frameworks collide, visible distress. This compartmentalization appears to be survival mechanism for effective combat soldiers." After interview, Clay began writing in journals, sporadic entries, thoughts he couldn't speak aloud. 1978 entry, found after his death. 34 years since Guam. The faces are mostly gone now, but the number remains. 72. Ellie asks why I remember the number if memories cause pain. I remember because forgetting would be worse. Those 72 men existed. They died by my hand. Forgetting count would dishonor their existence by pretending their deaths didn't matter. They mattered. That's why I count. Not pride. Responsibility. I killed 72 men. I carry 72 deaths. This is price of being good at war. The mirror technique influenced modern military doctrine in ways Clay never anticipated. The concept of exploiting enemy predictable responses became central to psychological operations. Electronic warfare today uses same principle. Create stimulus enemy cannot ignore, then exploit response. Counter-sniper tactics specifically incorporate lessons from Guam. Modern forces train to ignore unusual visual phenomena. Report rather than investigate. Assume any unexplained light is potential threat. These doctrines exist because Clay proved light distraction worked devastatingly well. Marine Corps Scout Sniper School at Camp Pendleton includes his case study. Students learn not just technique, but broader lesson about observation leading to innovation. The 2015 updated Sniper Manual includes Clay's photograph alongside text. Staff Sergeant Clayton Morrison demonstrated that effectiveness stems from understanding adversary psychology and exploiting predictable responses. His employment of simple mirror to create tactical advantage exemplified Marine Corps values: innovation, adaptability, mission accomplishment through creative application of basic principles. Clay retired from Pacific Shipyards in 1986 at age 65. Spent retirement working in his garage, building things, repairing neighbors' appliances, teaching his grandchildren, 8 total, how to measure precisely, think mechanically, solve problems methodically. Never discussed war with them, never showed Navy Cross, never mentioned Guam. But sometimes his grandson would find him in garage late at night, just sitting, staring at nothing. "Grandpa, you okay?" "Fine, Bobby, just thinking." "About what?" "Old things. Get to bed. School tomorrow." April 2009. Clay was 88. The cancer had been aggressive, pancreatic. Doctors gave him months. He lasted 6 weeks. Ellie sat beside his hospital bed, holding his hand. 53 years of marriage. She knew what he needed. "How many?" she asked quietly. 72. "You remember them all?" "I remember the number. That's enough." "Did you do the right thing?" Clay was silent for a long time, breathing shallow, weak. "I did what was necessary. That's not the same as right, but it's all I had." "The Marines you saved, the ones who lived because those 72 died, do they matter?" "Yes." "Then you matter too, Clay. What you did mattered. The weight you carried mattered. All of it mattered." Clay squeezed her hand weakly. "Thank you for carrying it with me. Always." He died that night. Military funeral 3 days later. Flag-draped coffin, rifle salute. Taps, played by young Marine, who didn't know the man they were honoring had changed how Marines fight. Navy Cross was discovered in his dresser drawer after death, still in original case, never displayed. Alongside it, the chrome-plated mirror, wrapped in oilcloth, preserved perfectly. 2012, 3 years after Clay's death. His children donated mirror to National Museum of Marine Corps in Quantico, Virginia. It sits in display case with his Springfield rifle, his notebook from Guam, and Navy Cross he never wore. The placard uses Clay's own words from his final interview. "The mirror was just tool. Understanding was the weapon. Japanese soldiers couldn't help investigating unusual lights because humans are curious. I used their humanity against them. That's warfare's tragedy. We weaponize fundamental human traits, then wonder why we carry permanent scars." 72 Japanese soldiers died in 3 days in August 1944. Clayton Morrison carried their deaths for 65 years. Both truths matter. Neither cancels the other. The farm boy who became sniper. The veteran who carried ghosts. The warrior who refused to pretend necessity erased tragedy. The innovator who changed doctrine but couldn't change weight. His innovation saved hundreds of American lives. Created tactical advantage from 35-cent mirror. Proved that understanding psychology beats expensive equipment when applied with precision and patience. But the real story isn't the 72 kills in 3 days. The real story is one man carrying 72 souls for 65 years. Never seeking absolution, never forgetting the count, never pretending war's necessity made it anything other than what it was. Necessary killing, still killing. Professional excellence, still death. Mission success. Still 72 families who grieved. Clay understood what some veterans forget and some civilians never learn. You can do what war requires and still acknowledge what it costs. 2 realities can exist side by side. He held both weights equally. Never resolved the contradiction because it couldn't be resolved. Some weights don't get lighter with time, they just become part of who you are. The mirror sits in museum now, chrome surface, still reflective, small, simple, harmless looking, but it killed 72 men, and it haunted one. That's the complete lesson of the mirror technique, not just how it worked, not just what it accomplished, but what it cost the man who used it. Technical triumph, human burden, forever.